A very pleasant good day to you wherever you may be, and welcome to the University of Common Sense. My name is Tim Morrow, and our subject is the colon, root of all disease. It's very important to know about the colon. Most of our lives should be spent learning about us, about our bodies, how we function, what organ does what and how it does it, and which herb fits that organ. Most of our learning should be about us and how we operate. Instead, it's done the other way, for somebody to operate on us. Do you know that again this year in 1997, the number one cancer will be cancer of the colon? Americans will pay with their health, and they'll even pay with their life for constipation. Because that's the number one reason in this country for everything is constipation. The worst part of all that is most of us believe that we're not constipated. Yet and still, everything points to the fact that we are. And that is because we still continue to have the colon cancer over and over and over. And no surgery ever takes care of the problem. But over and over again, we continue to do the same thing. Do you know, when they say history repeats itself, it's basically saying that man continues to make the same stupid mistakes over and over again. Here at the University of Common Sense, we are about information, not education. We feel as though we've already been miseducated. And so we're here to help you with information. Information means you can do whatever you want to do with it. But we give the information for people to be able to understand. Even if you say no, you should at least know about ourselves. Most of us make our choices by default. Why? Because we don't know. In other words, ignorance, just plain old not knowing. And as Americans, we've got to wake up because we are seriously ill, seriously ill. In fact, there's 4 stages of illness. Number 1 is acute. That means it's something that has just started. At that time, we have pain. Pain is alert. It's to alert us and let us know something's going on. Our body assumes that we know how to take care of it. So it figures that we'll do something about it, but we don't. What we do is we make the stupid mistake many times of going to see a doctor who gives you a drug which launches our soul into eternity rather than make us well. So number 1 is acute. Number 2 is subacute. Sub means under. So it's gone deeper into the body, and because we didn't do anything about it. So it's acute, then subacute. Third is chronic. Chronic means when you're in the chronic stage of illness, pretty well you feel good. You feel okay anyhow. Why? Because that waste has gone deeper into the body and it's not bothering you at this time. Then number 4 is degenerative. Degenerative is what doctors call cancer. Degeneration. There's some other statistics you should know. Number 1 is every 90 days we have new blood. Every 11 months, every organ in our body is new. And every 2 years, every bone in our body is new. We are regenerating ourselves every minute of every day. That's every minute that we live. We are regenerating ourselves. Each cell, in fact, we get rid of 1 billion dead cells an hour. And each one of those cells is replaced by a new cell. That cell that is replaced is what you ate. That's what that cell is built from. In this country, we eat the wrong things. The processed food, white rice, white sugar, pastas, pizzas, meat, spaghetti, macaroni, cheese. What they do is they constipate us, and they constipate us severely, to the point that 98% of all the population in this country is constipated. When you hear that your friend has colon cancer, it means that your friend is constipated. And I'll tell you something. If I just had to have cancer, if I just got to have cancer, let it be in my colon, because I can eliminate from my colon. That's why it's so important to understand the colon. If you understand the colon, you will realize that you can eliminate anything in the body through the colon. That includes, for the female, the menstrual cycle, because the colon will accept the waste from every organ in the body. We've got all these channels of elimination: the skin, the lungs, the kidneys, the colon, and the lymphatic, and the liver. All those are channels of elimination. For the female, the vaginal tract. The waste will be accepted by the colon from any one of those places. That's the reason why it's so important to keep the colon clean. That means to remain unconstipated. That's all it really means. Let me tell you something. If all we did was stayed unconstipated, we could add 40 quality years onto our life. If you didn't do anything else, if you didn't take care of the lung, you didn't take care of the kidneys, you didn't take care of the liver, even if you didn't take care of those, eliminating through the colon will empty all of those channels of elimination into the colon. You have to realize that a tumor on your brain will go to the colon if you'll just make room in the colon. A tumor is your friend, is your ally. That's the body that has taken the waste and put it into a capsule so that that waste doesn't get into your bloodstream and kill us. That's the reason for it. That's the intelligence of the body. And if we could understand that intelligence of the body, things would change tremendously for them. But you know who has to understand that? Not the doctor, not your mommy, not your daddy. You have to understand that. You have to understand that and then realize that each one of us as adults is responsible for our own health. It's not the government. It is not the state. It is not anybody but us. I am solely responsible for my health, and I accept that responsibility, and I accept that responsibility gladly, because nobody has the vested interest in me that I have. That means nobody will take better care of me than I will. And that same is true for you. It means then, if you don't know your body, learn it. I tell you something, it's not only simple to understand, it's fun. And it really will work for you. Whatever you give it, it'll give it back to you 1,000 times over if you'll just take care of it. And that means starting with the colon. Starting with the colon. Number one is the colon is about 2.5 inches round. It's also, in an adult, approximately 7 feet long. So it's not a little gut that we're talking about. It's about 7 feet long. And we're going to go over here to the chart, and so we can have a good idea as to what the colon really looks like. I want to have the colon the way it is. Here is the appendix hanging at the end of the colon, which can give you some idea as to why we have a burst appendix, is because of the colon. This is the colon, and in an adult about 7 feet long. Okay? This is the way it's wrapped up in the body. In here is the 20 feet of small intestine where we digest our food. But this is the colon. Now, this is the way the colon is supposed to look. And I must admit to you, it seldom looks this way. The colon seldom looks this way. I've got some more pictures of what the colon it really looks like. But the colon is where all of our solid waste accumulates. So it becomes very important to understand that everything that you eat finds its way to the colon or to the skin or to the lungs or to the kidneys. So that means that you have to eliminate approximately 2 pounds of waste a day. Again, the colon is so important because the colon will accept the waste from all of the channels of elimination. So you want to make sure that that is working right for you. Let me tell you what does not belong in the colon, does not belong in your mouth. White rice, white sugar, pastas, pizzas, meat, spaghetti, macaroni, cheese, because those are things that constipates us, and they constipate us to no end. And it's forever, because we're forever eating that. When we're not eating, we're snacking. The reason why we're snacking is because we're always hungry, because we never ate anything that satisfies the bloodstream. When you don't satisfy the bloodstream, you'll always be hungry. That's the reason why Americans snack their way to the next meal. And when the next meal rolls around, they eat and eat and eat, but there's never any satisfaction. Why? Because there was no life in the food that they ate. And so the body could not take any life out of the food and deliver it to the bloodstream, because the bloodstream is what we run by. If you don't eat food that has life in it, there's nothing that can be taken from it. And so we end up eating and eating and eating and eating until we're grossly overweight. That's what's the matter with America today. We are not just overweight, we're now at the point where we are grossly overweight. I mean, to the point now where some people can't even move. It stops the circulation and all that. All of this is caused because we are constipated as a nation. And folks, I know that you're saying, I'm not constipated. And maybe you aren't. So let me give you 5 little rules that we go by. Number 1 is, all these things must happen if you're not constipated. Number 1 is, you must have a bowel movement within a half an hour after you eat, every time you eat. And the reason for that is that when you eat and something falls into the stomach, it pushes that that's in the small intestine, and that that's in the small intestine pushes that that's in the large intestine. Let me show you that. Let me show you what I mean by that when we go to the chart here. When we eat, the food falls into here and goes down into the small intestine. It starts its journey through the small intestine. So the food is started down there, gets into the it falls into the stomach, goes into the stomach, and it starts its journey into the small intestine. Well, when you put something into the stomach, it starts moving that that's in the small intestine. That that's in the small intestine pushes that that's in the large intestine. That will explain why an infant baby will be eating and eliminating at the same time. It's because of the tiny size of the baby. It happens right away. He's not eliminating what he's eating. He's eliminating what he ate an hour ago. As an adult, once we grow up, that should happen within about 30 minutes after we eat. So within a half an hour after we eat, we should have a bowel movement. We'll also explain why you have to take the dog out after he eats. That's number 1. Number 2 is the colon's 2.5 inches round. The waste from it should be large in size. Shouldn't have a shoestring. Number 3 is the waste should never sink to the bottom of the bowl. If it sinks to the bottom of the bowl, it means what we ate had no life in it. It was, we ate the white rice, white sugar, pastas, pizzas, because there's no oxygen in it, so it sinks right to the bottom of the bowl. If you eat food that has life in it, oxygen and all that, that oxygen in it makes the waste float on top of the water. So that tells you what you ate. That's number 3. Number 4 is the colon, the waste from the colon should not have this terrible odor. The reason why it has that odor is because it has remained in the body too long. Nothing is to remain in the body longer than 24 hours. When I say 24 hours, I mean that is the very maximum. Everything should literally be gone out of the colon by 6 hours after we ate it, because it's no longer food. It has turned into waste. Okay? So 6 hours it should be gone, but 24 hours is the maximum. And if you got rid of things in 6 hours, believe me, there would be no odor like we have in America. And number 5 is the print of the colon. And let me take a look at that again. The print of the colon. If you look at the colon here, it has a print on it. It has a print on that colon. That print is also on the inside of the colon. So that print should be on all of the waste, because that means that the waste came off of the wall, the floor, the ceiling of the colon. It came off of there, and you did not tunnel eliminate right through the center. And this is what 99.9% of us do in this country. And we have a bowel movement in the morning, and we think all is well, even though we may eat 6 more times during that day. We have one bowel movement, and we think all is well. All is not well. All is not well at all. In fact, it gives us a real false sense of security. And we lay back on our morals and die 50 years ahead of our time and in absolute misery. And then when we have colon, when the doctor says you got colon cancer, we go and let him cut out 2 or 3 feet of it. We have no superfluous parts in our body. Every part of our body does something. It has more than one job that it does. So when you get rid of anything, any part of your body, you have gotten rid of an ally. You've gotten rid of a buddy. But that's especially true of the colon. And you know, while we're getting sicker and sicker and becoming more and more constipated, and we visit the doctor says, you go to the doctor, you say to the doctor, "Doctor, I only have a bowel movement once every week," and the doctor says, "Oh, Mrs. Smith, that's normal for you. Mrs. Smith, that is not normal for you." The reason why it's not normal is the doctor never even asked you how many times you ate. Let's assume you ate 3 times a day. If you ate 3 times a day, that means in that 1 week you ate 21 meals. And he's saying it's okay for you to have a bowel movement once in that time. If a 4-year-old kid heard the doctor say that, do you know what a 4-year-old kid would turn to his mommy and say? He'd say, "Mommy, where did the food go?" Because even a 4-year-old kid knows if it went in, it's got to come out. And so the doctor is saying, "No, it doesn't." And you say, "Well, Doc, what happens to that?" He said, "It was absorbed." I said, "Doc, that's what I'm worried about. Where was it absorbed?" And I can tell you where it's absorbed, folks. It's absorbed into your hair, into your feet, into your skin. They got names for them. They're athlete's foot, dandruff, eczema, psoriasis. All of that is what they name this waste when it shows up in all other parts of the body. It causes high blood pressure, low blood pressure, diabetes, AIDS, you name it. The waste trapped in the colon that eventually ends up in the bloodstream, and once it ends up in the bloodstream circulates the body 9 times a minute. That's about every 10 seconds. Now that waste that's trapped in the bloodstream goes round and round and round. It deposits the waste from your colon on your brain. Now you know why Americans are crazy? Now you understand what is happening to us as a nation. It doesn't make any difference what you call your so-called disease. The end result is the same. Surgery will not change anything. In fact, poor Ronald Reagan, when he was in office, they took out 2 feet of his colon. Took out 2 feet. I'll bet you that cost the taxpayers $4 million. And then they closed him back up, and all was well. Well, let me tell you something, folks. When they closed him back up, he still had the same problem. He still has that same problem today, and that problem is now called Alzheimer's. But it's just showing up in a different place, and the medical field renames it to save face. And even when they don't, what they give us to make us well, makes us sicker and sicker. Number one is when the doctor gives you a drug, one of the first things it does is constipates you. They don't even lie about that. They write that in the PDR. And then it breaks down, especially those places where the blood is filtered. Number one is filtered through the liver first, and we suffered tremendously with the liver. Number two, the kidneys. What do we have for the kidneys today? We have a dialysis machine that's going to take the place of the kidney. I don't think so, folks. That's real delusions of grandeur. And number three is the heart. Man, we do heart surgeries like there's no tomorrow. Those are the three things that bother us the most. That's where the four biggest surgeries is number one, the colon, number two, the kidneys, number three, number three is not the pancreas, I'm trying to remember, but they're the four places that filter our blood. The heart, the kidneys, the colon. Those are the things where that's going to be, because that's what drugs break down. They break it down severely. Remember I said earlier, every 90 days we have new blood. Every 11 months, every organ in our body is new. And every 2 years, every bone in our body is new. What are they doing? They're transplanting organs. How would you like to have your organ is worn out now, and you're going to go and get somebody else's old worn out organ? Could be your sister or your brother, whoever it might be. They just got an old organ that's just as worn out as yours is. Why not rebuild your own organ? Because if you use the right thing, it will build it. You have a new colon every 11 months. Now let me show you what most colons look like. This is what most colons really look like. This is X-rays of colons in people. And this is what most of us look like. Now, this is what most of our colons look like. It doesn't look like this at all, but looks like this most of the time. And that's the thing that we have to, that means that this can be changed. Why? Because every 11 months, we have a new colon. It's just, what did we do to change it? People go, well, if what you're saying is true, if every 90 days we have new blood, every 11 months we have new organs, every 2 years we have new bones, if that's true, why do we grow old? Hey, that's a pretty valid question. But the reason why we grow old is because we use the same junk year after year to rebuild it. The white rice, the white sugar, the pastas, the pizzas, the meat, the spaghetti, cheese, all that. It doesn't build anything good. And so we age because everything begins to drop, including our face. So we age, folks. Over and over and over we age. Let me give you a clue as to what some of this waste looks like. This is how bad the waste actually becomes inside it. This is the waste from the colon that's taken from living people, mind you. This is taken from living people. This comes from Dr. Bernard Jensen, who had a ranch down in Escondido, California. And so this is really important to see and understand. This is not the way we're supposed to be. This is not the way we should be. But this is the result of white rice, white sugar, pastas, pizzas, meat, spaghetti, macaroni, cheese, and on the story goes. There is an herb. I'm just mentioning one herb. There are several herbs, but there's an herb. It's called Cascara sagrada. The medical field knows all about Cascara sagrada. In fact, when they see Cascara sagrada works on the colon, and it's an herbal laxative, and all it does is bring back the peristalsis to the colon. It doesn't go in and try to do the job of the colon. In fact, on the contrary, it goes in and brings the strength of the earth to the colon so that the colon can do its own job, unlike the commercial laxative that goes in there and tries to do the job of the colon. Because what happens then is the colon gets lazy. But the herbal laxative goes in there and gives the strength to the colon so that the colon can get back to doing the job that it once did. That's what this is all about, is making the colon do its job. The body's intelligence is absolutely incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Everything it does is to try and get that waste out of us. Let it happen. Make it happen. And you can make it happen by using the herbs that nature has given us. Medicine cannot, by the very nature of it, do anything to help us. Only nature is the natural restorer of good health. And all I can do, I can't make you well. All I can do is to help nature in her efforts to make you well. It's basic, and it is very, very simple. Very simple. In fact, it's for us to be this sick, we had to be trying. You can't accidentally get this sick. You have to be working on it. That's the reason why you hear me say, growing old does not make us sick. It is growing sick that makes us old. For the University of Common Sense, I'm Tim Morrow. And we sure hope to see you next time.